Alright, so this tool is called the CNC Mill, and it's one of the two knee mills in the lab. The other one is manual. It's not controlled by a computer, and we'll go over that later. This performs the same basic functions as the movable bed CNC is covered in other videos, with the added benefit of also being able to do some manual stuff using these wheels here, controlling the X, the Y, and the Z, all with manual modes that are either controlled by hand or with a motor. And then, of course, the obvious, you can put your program in here and have it make your part for you. So we're going to go over some basic features of this and then show you how to make a part on it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is turn on the device. So here is the main power switch. There's only one. It's on the back here. So you're just going to want to go ahead and flip the switch up, and that powers on the entire machine. No other steps necessary. And once you flip the switch here, it won't do anything for a second, and then all of a sudden it'll start powering up. And you don't need to press any buttons or anything. If you need to make sure there's not a floppy disk in here, otherwise it tries to read it and gives an error. And it will automatically load the program once the computer starts up. Alright, so this is the main screen. First thing I do if I'm not going to use any of this right now is go ahead and hit the table stop button, just so that nothing, say something accidentally hits a button or something, the table doesn't move. And so now I'm going to go over the parts of this machine to give a little better understanding of how things work. So now if we take a closer look at the upper half of the machine, we've got the spindle control here. This basically just turns it on. You'll notice that there's a high range and a low range. Basically what that means is if you're running in high gear, you're going to want to turn it to high range so it spins in a, I guess, clockwise if you're looking down on your part direction, and a low range if you're in a low gear. And I guess obviously if you turn it opposite that, it would spin in the opposite direction, but you don't want to do that. Now we have another Z-axis lock here. This actually locks this end of the Z-axis. All you got to do is pull on this, and then you'll see that this doesn't go anywhere. So that's how that works. Up here we have the brake, spindle brake. This is just a manual brake that you don't want to activate unless it's basically you use it to slow the spindle down once you already turn it off. And all you do is you just pull it toward you, or turn it toward you, and that's what activates it. And then you just let go to deactivate it. Here is the spindle speed adjustment. Obviously this is for the low range here, and this is for the high range in RPM, of course. You only want to adjust this while the machine is running. Do not adjust it while the machine is off, you'll break it. Over here on this side, there's a gear selector here with high, neutral, and low. You can see that it's in the high position right here. Now to use this, you push the handle in and rotate it back. Once you push the handle in and it's out of the little detent, you don't have to push it in anymore. So you go there and somewhere there we go, that's neutral. And so we're going to go try and put it in low here. And if it doesn't go, which that time it did, sometimes what you have to do is manually spin the spindle with your hand, just down here. You can just spin this portion with your hand, and it'll get it to lock in a position. So if you put it in neutral here, I give it a couple spins here, maybe we'll have trouble putting it into high. Yeah, notice it's not locking up into high right now, so I spin the spindle by hand a little bit, and there it goes, locks in, and now you're in. And again, when you go to turn the spindle on, you need to make sure you put it in high range or low range, depending on what gear you're in. And that's about it for the basic knobs and levers of this tool. You should not mess with anything else unless you know exactly what you're doing, which, yeah, so don't do. This piece also comes off, so it doesn't get in your way and spin while the machine is automatically doing that. Alright, so before we get started with homing the machine, I thought I'd show you real quick here. If you look up here, you've got the X, Y, and Z axes, and basically the manual mode will allow you to, it unlocks the gears that move the bed, so you can just crank these levers by hand, and can see them changing right there. So if there's anything real simple that you need to do and you don't want to put it in the computer, you can just do it right here, and that's about it for the manual mode. Again, you can use the motors too here. If you, instead of finding home, you just press cancel. You can activate the table motors. Use these buttons here to move the X and Y axes, and these two buttons here to move the Z. I'll show you how to do that in a minute, but I want to show you how to do the home first. So if we take a look at the setup, the home function basically needs to have 2 inches to move in all 3 directions. So if you had a part here, you want to make sure that whatever's hanging out here doesn't go getting hit if it moves in either direction 2 inches. So basically what that means is this has got to be down some. You can just use the Z adjuster, which is usually located on this counter right back here. Put that on there, make sure that's down a little bit. Otherwise it'll give you an error. You'll have to restart. Make sure there's enough room in this direction. So we'll just go ahead and put the table roughly in the middle. Not that big a deal. Just so we know we have plenty of room. And then what you do is you just go ahead and hit the Find Home button. And what the machine will do is it'll move around a little bit, do its thing. And all 3 axes. And then it pops up with this new menu down here. Has all this stuff. And basically you are set to go to go ahead and use some more advanced features of this computer, which we'll cover later when we go to post some programs to this and such. But real quick, I want to show you how to use the Move Table feature. Basically, you hit this soft button right under the Move Table. And what that does is it deactivates, or rather activates, the motors, or servos, on all 3 axes. So you can no longer move them by hand, because you want to make sure you fold in all of the handles, like I showed you how to do earlier, so that those don't hit your kneecaps and knock them off. And you can hit these arrows here, and they will move the table accordingly. And again, slice the position. So what you can also do is, this is just continuous, so if you hold this down, it'll move the table continuously. You also have the incremental controls right here. There's, what, 1/10,000th of an inch. So you can press that, it'll only move it. And notice it moves it like 0.001, which is what's new. You can do 0.01 and 0.1. And this works in all the axes. Notice the Z up and down is controlled right here. There's no arrows for it. And then one more thing you can do is, if you want to deactivate this incremental, you gotta hit the button again, the one that's pressed down, so that deactivates it. There is a feed. Notice that's 100% right there. You can manually change that down to 10%, and that just makes it move slower. And that's basically all there is to the simple function of this. And we'll go over more of the details once we post a program to this. Oh, one more thing actually. You can change it to millimeters. So one additional thing to notice when you're using the manual controls on this is they will be opposite those of the movable bed CNCs in a way, in such that when you use these arrows, they will, gotta hit the move table button first apparently. There we go. Oh, come on. There we go. When you hit these arrows, it'll move the table in that direction. So you can see you hit the left, move the table left, hit forward, move the table forward. On these machines back here, when you hit the forward button, it'll move it back, because it makes it look, according to the perspective of the table, that the bit is moving in that direction. So these are kind of opposite, just don't get those too confused. So the last basic operation of this machine is to install and remove your tool. So I'm going to show you just how to first install this chuck. So you can use, basically this is a drill press if you want. So if you take a close look at this, it's basically got this tapered part right here, which will go into the machine, and then this little keyed notch here, and the machine has a little nub on the inside which will fit that keyed spot, so it'll only go in one way. And you want to make sure that this end is totally clean, and then inside here is clean. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use the compressed air blow that out. Make sure there's nothing in there. And then just take your finger, just run in there, make sure there's no debris. What you're going to do is you can kind of feel where the key part is and put it in there in that direction. Otherwise you can just kind of twist around in there until you find it. It's not that hard. So push that all the way up in there. And you take this on top, notice that's moving when I do that. It's basically a big threaded shaft that goes all the way through the machine. So you're going to want to go ahead and put down on this. Just turn it hand tight for now, prevent this from falling out. What we're going to do is we're going to grab this tool right here. Yeah, it's almost always right here. And it's just a 3/4 inch wrench here. So what we're going to do, it's easier for taller people, obviously. There's some issues here. You have to hold the brake here, hold it nice and snug. What you're going to do is give this a good yank here, otherwise you'll overcome the power of the brake. I'm going to go ahead and do that another time. And then one last time, just in about 30-degree or so increments. And that's all there is to putting the tool in. And of course this is a keyless chuck, so you just put your drill bit in there and then tighten down on it. So yeah, that's how you put this on. So then to remove it, basically the same process with a couple differences. So first what you want to do is loosen it. And again, you're going to have to fight the brake. And once you can feel it, there's no resistance, like right there, now it's kind of loose. You can give it like just one turn, and you kind of hit this. So basically hit that until this is loose down here, and you may have to give it like 2 or 3 turns or something like that for it to do that. And again, it's hard to get a good angle on this when you're short like me. But then what you want to do is you want to make sure you got a good hold on this. Now some of these tools are heavy, so you got to get a good hold on it. And then go ahead and twist this the rest of the way by hand. And the reason you want to hold this is because otherwise it's going to go smashing down on the end of the table and you don't want to go ruining anything. So there you go, that's how you take this off. So some of the other tools you can use are these collets, which basically hold whatever tool you want to put in them that fits perfectly inside. There's a whole bunch of different sizes you can use, and use them in the exact same way. They've got this taper on them, got this little key, so you put it in here, such a way that it fits. Now what you want to do, you want to go ahead and just give this a couple turns here. You don't want to get it to start pinching down on the collet. And then you want to put your tool in there, right about now, and then turn it down the rest of the way, just like I did with the chuck there. And that's how you install a collet. I'm not going to do that because I don't really need to go through that whole thing again. Of course, the removal process is the same. You want to make sure you take once you loosen it, you want to take your tool out first, so that it doesn't go smashing into the table and go messing up your drill bit or whatever you've got in this. And then the last thing are these tools, so you can put in whatever tool you want that fits in here. It's basically like it's not really a collet, basically your tool has to have this little flat end here, so that when you use this piece, you put the tool in there and then you tighten down on this little grub screw there, and it holds your tool in there. Alright, so the first step to machining your part is, of course, mounting it. So here we've just got a strap piece that we're going to use to show you how to mount it. And what we're going to use is just some simple mounting blocks and bolts. Now most of these tables are machined surfaces that have threaded holes that you can just use these bolts with an Allen wrench to clamp your part down. I'll show you a couple other ways to use a vise to do it, or a chuck to also hold like round parts or such. But we're going to go ahead and show you this one first. Alright, so the first step to doing this here is to go ahead and turn the table stop on so that you don't go hitting any buttons and hurting yourself. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to be excessive with the use of these clamps, but you want to strategically place them such that your tool is not going to hit them. In this case it doesn't matter too much because we're not going to be machining it. But basically these tools have notches on either side. So what you do is you line that up, put on your piece, line that up, get it somewhat level, doesn't matter too much. You take one of these bolts, put a washer on it. Now these holes don't go all the way through, so you may have to get a different size bolt, but this size will do just fine. And you can kind of hand tighten it for now. And put one there, and I'm just going to put one back here too. Or actually, I guess I'm going to have to put one right here because there's not a hole in the back. And you just go ahead and crank down on these. Not too tight, but you want to hold it pretty good. And then, of course, going to move this over so I can get the wrench on it. Alright, there we have it. Piece isn't moving. Now, of course, if alignment was important, you're going to want to go ahead and make sure that that's square with the tabletop. But we're not really too concerned with that. I'm just going to show you how to zero in the Z and edge find. And that's all we're going to do with this piece for now. Alright, so to find the top of your piece, or to zero your tool to the top of the piece rather, I'm doing this on the Wolf Creek tool first, and it can only hold one tool in memory, so you have to do this for every tool you use. I just have a regular drill bit inserted in here. Now finding this is actually pretty simple. So what we're going to do is go ahead and raise the table first to get it closer. Alright, that's close enough. So then, you're going to make sure that your surface is nice and clean. And you can attach the manual feed lever up here so that we can bring it even closer. You can actually get it pretty close, manual feed. And then, what you're going to want to do is hit the move table button. Oh, we've got to release the table. There we go. And we're going to go incremental. We're going to go 0.001. And we're going to go Z down. And we're just going to keep hitting Z down while moving around this piece of paper until that piece of paper doesn't move around anymore. So you can see it still moves a little bit, so we'll do it one more time. Now that piece of paper is locked. So that is going to be the tool 0. And now what you want to do is you go ahead and get that 0, just press move table button and get out of there. And you're going to want to press this datum button. It's important you press this one first. You do not want to press 0Z yet. Press datum, and then you press Z equals 0. And then you want to go ahead and press this use button here. And you can see Z is now 0. So we can go to move table. We can go ahead and move Z up. And it's now calibrated to the top of the part is now Z equals 0. And again, you're going to have to do this with every tool because this machine does not have a memory. So the next step here is to use this edge finder tool, and basically what it is it's just a round bit here that this piece will offset. It has 3 different modes. It has a not touching the piece, which it'll just wobble around. It has a touching the piece where it'll be perfectly centered, and then it has a touching and rubbing up against the piece where it'll constantly stay offset. I'll show you what those 3 modes are and how to zero the machine for that. And again, we're using the Wolf Creek machine for now. So what you're going to want to go ahead and do is you can just use this chuck that's already in here. That should work just fine. You can use a collar if you want, or a collet if you want to also. That's fine. So, got that in there. I'm going to go ahead and raise the table up again. Now, it's important to note this is kind of bad practice what I'm doing here. I'm raising the table, which of course is going to reset the Z, so you'd want to zero the Z again. But since we're not actually doing anything to this part, we're not going to be too concerned with that for now. What you would want to do instead is use the Z lever and actually move the Z down. So we're just going to get that close, and then we'll lower the Z-axis for the rest of it. So we're going to release the table. And I'll go ahead and do the Y direction first. So we can go ahead and lower that down. Now, you're going to, of course, want to put safety glasses on. And what we can do is we're going to go ahead and turn on the machine. And we're going to adjust the RPM. But, of course, the machine needs to be on to do that. Alright, so the machine's on. And of course, recall that you adjust the RPM right here. You're going to want to take it down to about 800. Alright, so you can see here that the piece is all wobbly like that. That's what you want. You don't want it to be in the center. So if it's not quite wobbling, you can just touch it like that. It's not going to hurt you, as long as you don't get your finger caught. So you want it wobbling like that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to manually move the table so that it gets kind of close. You can see it starts to wobble even less. Okay, now that we're close, we're going to go ahead and engage the servos of the table. And again, we're going to go incremental, 0.001, and move it in the Y. See, it starts to have less and less. And there, how it just now offset, that means it's now actually touching and rubbing against the surface. So we're going to go ahead and back up 1. Not really wobbling. I know it kind of might look like it's wobbling, but that's just a light reflection. So now what we're going to do is the same thing with the Z, or same thing as the Z. So go ahead and deactivate the servos. We're in the Y, so we're going to have to hit datum, and then 0 to Y, and then go ahead and hit use. Alright, so Y is 0. Now this is not the tool 0. It's not the tool 0. We're going to have to move it because this is the edge of the tool. So the tool has a 0.1 inch radius. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and attach the Z handle here. We're just going to move it up so that it clears the part. And then, we're going to go ahead and move the table. You just hit 0.1. We're going to move it back 0.1. Disengage the servos. Datum. Y equals 0. Use. And that is now the 0 of the part. So now, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing with the X. Again, whenever you move the table like this, you just want to make sure you don't run into any of your clamps or anything else. So again, we get it close. Use the Z to lower it. First you want to get this a little kick, get it off center there. Oh, that's probably too much. one pass where it gets in the center. There we go. We go ahead and raise the Z up to clear. Oh, first you gotta disengage zeros. Alright. Then we can re-engage. 0.1. We want to move the X. Or, wow, almost messed up there. We want to zero the X first. So datum, X equals 0. Use move table. 0.1. Move the X over there. It's 0.1. Disengage. Datum. I almost hit that button. You gotta be careful to hit datum first. X equals 0. Use. Now we have our Z, as if I didn't move the table. Our X and our Y edges found. We're ready to go ahead and start the program, and of course make sure your clamp's clear and everything. And that's how you edge find and zero tool for the Workpiece machine. I'm also going to show you how to find the center of either a circle or really a pocket of any shape, be a square or circle, here in just a second. Alright, so what we've got here is a piece that just has a pocket here, and say we want to do something relative to the center here, we've got to find the center. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the edge finder, just like before. We already have the spindle speed set to 800, and we're just going to zero it for the center. We're not going to worry about centering or zeroing the Z or anything. So the first step here is to go ahead and get your piece somewhat close to the center here. Doesn't matter too much. And then we're going to go ahead and do is just lower the Z a little bit so that it'll actually touch the sidewalls. And of course we can check in case we have trouble eyeballing stuff here to make sure it actually does get close, and it does. So what we're going to do is go ahead and start the machine. Go ahead and kick this off center a little bit. No, not quite that much. Okay. Now we are going to just do one axis at a time. So let's go ahead and do the X first. We're going to go ahead and get it close. So now, that's set as the 0. So now what we're going to do is go ahead and move it to the other side. Go ahead and set this off center a little bit. Servos, anchor around 0.001. You're going to move it until it finds the center. F1. Alright. So, basically what that gives us is that X moved over 2.376. So what we're going to do is, conveniently enough, there's a little calculator on the front of the tool. I'm going to turn that on. We do 2.376 divided by 2. to 1.188. So what we're going to do, so we're already on a move table. I'm going to go ahead and take the incremental off. And we're going to go ahead and move it to negative 1.188. And of course, 1.188, there we go. So that should be the center of the X. So we're going to do it, disengage servos, data, X equals 0, use. That is the center in the X direction. So now, we're going to go ahead and do the same procedure for the Y direction. So again, we're going to knock this off center. And it doesn't matter which direction you start going first, it's not really that big a deal. Alright, so we're close. Engage servos. Now remember, the arrows on the screen move the table in that direction. It is the opposite of that of the movable bed CNCs. Centered like that. So we'll go ahead and disengage servos, datum, Y equals 0, use. Alright. That is now a Y. So, again, we're going to do the same procedure. We've got 2.706. So we're going to put 2.706, divide that by 2, 1.353. So what we're going to go ahead and do is move it so that the Y is 1.353. I guess I'll take off the incremental. There we go, 1.353. Now, disengage servos, datum, Y equals 0, use. And what you can do, it's kind of as a sanity check, take a look at where it's at, and you can go ahead and turn off the machine now, it's no big deal. You can go ahead and take a pair of calipers, go ahead and just give it a measure and see how we're doing here. Yep. Those are the same. You can do it for this side too. Yep. So that is the center of the part. Now, obviously there's some other ways. If you were reading along in the actual tutorial, it says some other way, which, to be honest, just confuses me. And if you watch how automatic machines do it, this is how the automatic machines do it. You can do the same thing with a circle. So, and you don't even have to be close to the center of the circle. You could be, you know, potentially, I could have started, you know, like in that corner. But in terms of a circle, if you start near the edge finding tool won't necessarily work as well because it's not hitting a wall, it's hitting like a side wall. So the closer you are to the center of a circle, the better, but it's not really that big a deal. So yeah, that's how you center find, at least on this machine. And of course, this is going to be the same with the other machines. We're just going to have to zero differently, and I'll show you how to do that.